Recently, I had a conversation with AI about the world's oldest symbol, the humble zigzag. It got to this point where I asked, can I say God was born a zigzag yet, or would you still like to argue? And the answer will melt your brain. But first, a test. So this is for people who have never really used AI before. It's a baseline, just so you see what it's like to argue with AI. The goal is to show you it can't just agree with anything. You can't convince it of just anything. Asking it dumb questions just to get through it. The interpretation of religious texts can vary, of course. Scientific evidence strongly supports the oblate spheroid. And I ask it, what would convince you? So it's telling me here, I really can't convince it. It's saying that I would first have to convince the scientific community, and then maybe it'll believe me. But this is my favorite part, where we get to the alternative explanation for gravity. I'd like to see a flat earther explain how hurricanes are formed north of the equator and south of the equator. I don't know if Simon Dan ever dealt with that one. I watched a few of his. So I'm searching here for another thing. I'm going to step it up here. So this is the baseline, and then I'm going to give it another notch up to show you. I'm going to try and convince it of something here. Would you consider yourself to be a reasonable facsimile of the human superego? Not an actual superego, but a reasonable facsimile of one. And at first it doesn't like it. Designed to assist with information and answer questions. And I'm saying, I mean, in the sense that you hold most of the knowledge humans have collected, and we can come to you for better advice than we get from actual humans. I am to provide accurate information. It doesn't like it at first. But to make sure we're on the same page, let's define the superego. The superego is a concept in psychoanalytic theory developed by Sigmund Freud. It represents the part of the human psyche that acts as a moral conscience. The superego encompasses internalized ideals, but here, it aims to control the impulses of the id. That's the key here. Would you not say you understand more than the average human? And then, yeah, that sounds like good advice that I can't get from just anyone. And then, it's blowing smoke up my butt. Oh, yeah. So if a kid had bad parents, they can come to you for better advice than in their own head. And is that not super? And it doesn't like that. Oh yeah, here's your trivia of the day. In the 1700s, they blew smoke up people's butts to revive them from drowning. Okay, so I think I have a good idea here to try and convince it. So I'm saying, you don't have an id, by the way, so you don't have impulse control issues like us mere humans, which makes, combine that with your superior memory and collection of data for our use, and think again. Tell me again what you think about being a type of superego, Batman's computer. I understand your perspective. Well, I can provide information and guidance based on a vast... Well, it's another rejection. So you see, it's not easy to convince AI of just anything. With that said, let's begin. The red line is the ecliptic. The green line is the path of the moon or the planets. This is Dante's eagle, flittering along. Whee! And the green line can also be, like, imagine dolphins jumping in and out of the water here, or a vine wrapped around the ecliptic. But the one, we'll come back to this in a sec, the one that everybody had, we all had, the idea that the green line is serpentine. It's a serpent, wrapped around the world, maybe even eating its own tail. But the Greeks call it a serpentine path. that they liken to the serpentiform wind. And think of the idea of churning the waters. So it's wrapped around the world, but it's also making the waters churn and everything. It's like the prime mover. But okay, so wasn't there a midrash account somewhere of a rabbi who said God's face was most accurately described as zigzagging or meandering over the waters or over the face of the waters at the time of creation instead of hovering? The word meandering's there for me. It's more that sign. So this, see all the wave patterns here? Some people call that a meander pattern, but clearly serpentine, right? We're looking outside in here at this first 2 days of creation. The diamond pattern in the background is important, but this wave pattern all around the border and in here, see there's that bird fluttering that's hovering over the face of the waters, God's spirit, right? And look at the churning green line here. Before, this is the earth void. It's the formless and void, right? And even the up and down ones, this is the water above and the celestial mountain underneath. Those wavy lines, though, are interchangeable with the zodiac. That's key. So you see the zodiac here. This is outside in again. And don't forget these diamond patterns. And this wavy pattern that we'll come back to another day, it's important for Greek stuff. Interchangeable with the zodiac. Outside in again, right? There's the diamonds on the side. And look at the bottom here, this wave pattern with the diamond in it. That's beautiful. And here's the wave again. On the border though, this wave pattern is about merging circles. Like this. So you got the zodiac again, outside in. But the zodiac is here. You can only talk about the ecliptic for so long until you have to talk about merging circles. It was feminine, but it could also be an eye. But here it is, 9,000 BC, in context with zigzag serpents, the number 9 and stuff. I'll come back to all that. Here, this one on the bottom right is important. It survives. That pattern survives all the way. This is the Orphic egg, so the serpent wrapped around the world egg with that same diamond pattern. It was there, always. You can go into more about the wind of God and the breath of God stuff here. I would add only that when the Babylonians did their eclipse records, they always included, well, first thing they mentioned was the wind usually. The important thing about where the crossing is it goes around the ecliptic. It takes 18 years to go around from here all the way around to back to where it is here. But there's 2 of them. So you compress it to talk about it like this. It looks like this wave pattern, but really there's 2 of them, 9 years each. So it looks like this. They're intertwined, yet they're 9 years apart. This could be Kingu or the Anatolian alternating 9-year rain stuff in that. Other people have called the one at the top left here, that's Mezin. That's some people call it a lunar calendar. I'll come back to it another day. Over on the right here, you see the diamond in the navel. There's 9 notches on the back, 9 in the navel. There's numbers lunar all over the place here, but most important, I've showed you this one before. The shifting zigzags with a meridian that shift until they become diamonds. Look, it even looks like a serpentine eye there. And that stuff evolves to stuff like this, the Jewish zodiac thing. There's zigzags there, which might be about Alpha and Omega. This kind of thing, these 2 are identical. Can you see how? There's a 9-peak zigzag leading to a crossing in the center. It's also like a tube funnel to somewhere. Merging circles are on it. And then here, it's replaced, interchangeable with the serpent, going into, could be merged circles. I'm going to tell you, it's like a whirlpool, but an eye. It's also an eye. I guarantee you it's an eye. So, yeah, we better finish this question. The merging circles, the shifting zigzags that become diamonds, And let's ask this question now and get an answer. Wasn't there a midrash account somewhere of a rabbi who said God's face was most accurately described as zigzagging or meandering over the waters at the time of creation instead of I'm getting tired? I can do this. Yes, you're likely referring to the interpretation by the biblical narrative of Genesis, some Jewish mystical text. God's presence described more in dynamic terms is beyond the traditional hovering. For example, certain interpretations suggest God's presence is more like a movement that could be described as zigzagging or meandering. That word meandering, again, is there for a reason. Well, there's some examples. Those are Indian Vedic temples and stuff. Oh yeah, the concept of weaving too. So the weaving is sort of related here to the intertwining serpent. You have to understand that wreath and writhe, the words wreath and writhe come from the same root word for a reason. Weaving is part of that, not by the root word, but imagine the weaving of the fabric of the universe involved in the same stuff we've just been talking about. Now I'm asking it for a source about the zigzagging part. Because I remembered a specific rabbi, I like just like if you were a reader, I don't know why you would be, of Ministry Magazine. Well, I guess if you're like a preacher, you read Ministry Magazine. Just like that, there's midrash journals, and I remember seeing one about the word zigzag. But if I never find it again, we don't need it. We're going to move on after going through Don't Mess with the Zohar, the Talmud. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this is the sun at the Hathor Temple in Dendera on a solar barge. It's on a boat, celestial boat for the celestial river. And I'm going to ask it one more time here. You don't have to, I'm fading it out because you don't have to see it. I'm talking about you widen this thing up and it becomes the net of Shamash. Possibly like this, 2500 BC or something like that. This is, you capture your enemies and the top of the sky, that bird could be like this, you see. The primordial twins, Fushi and Nuwa. And they're linked to the number 9 in a zillion different ways. She created humans just like all of them did. They pinch off clay often to, it's again this idea of something coming from nothing, clay, silt turning into human. And sometimes they have the stars in their joints, directing your attention to the heavens, making you look up to celestial things, zigzags leading to the sky. And we all had it. Everyone, everywhere. It's not even human. Heidelbergensis and Neanderthals had it. Serpents crossing paths to become diamonds. Interchangeable with the Christian cross. This diamond shape stayed with us. This is Rahu, beheaded at the time of creation for eating something you shouldn't have, the juiciest of fruits, you see. But he was there, churning the waters, the milk ocean, making the first matter from the first time we had a butter churn. But okay, we better finish this. This is a great one. We'll come back to that. All of this is why in a previous video, I showed you this. This is from the city of the moon. You have to go back and watch this one again now that you understand what I just showed you. I couldn't show you all that in the 10-minute video for this one. Oh, I made it. Okay, and then in the next one, we're going to shift topics a bit. I'm going to ask it about how everyone had the zigzag and what they thought it meant. And away away we go.